Welcome back to the deep dive. Imagine the sheer scale, the ambition it takes to power a nation like India. We're talking 1.4 billion people. And it's not just electricity anymore, is it? It's green energy, modern transport, smart cities.
It's a massive undertaking, a
Mhm.
truly epic transformation.
Exactly. And right at the heart of it, maybe quieter than some, is Power Finance Corporation, or PFC. So today, we're doing a deep dive into their latest annual report. We're looking for those, surprising facts, the key insights that show how this giant isn't just funding India's future, but really shaping it.
It's a really interesting document, actually. It gives you this very detailed look at how a major player in the power sector handles the financial markets,
Hmm.
how they lead these big government initiatives, and importantly, how they're trying to bake sustainability right into their operations.
Right.
So our mission today really is to pull out the most important bits for you, help you understand not just what's happening, but why it's so crucial for India's, well, huge energy transition.
Perfect. We'll unpack their latest financial wins, look at their strategic move towards greener, broader infrastructure, and see how they're handling governance and building an inclusive workplace. Get ready for some, hopefully, aha moments. You'll leave knowing more, maybe even a bit surprised by just how big their impact is. Let's jump in.
Okay.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The first thing that just leaps out from the report is the financial performance. It's pretty remarkable. What are the headline numbers for FY 24-25? What do they tell us?
Well, yeah, what's really impressive is how consistently they're breaking records.
Yeah.
On a consolidated basis, so that includes subsidiary, their profit after tax, PANT, hit an all-time high.
Yeah.
30,514 crore. That's about 15% growth year on year.
15%. Wow.
Yeah. And even just PFC standalone, their own highest ever annual PAT, 17,352 crore. That's up 21% from the previous year. These aren't just, abstract figures. They signal really strong financial health.
Yeah.
It's what lets them be this sort of bedrock for infrastructure development.
That's a serious jump. So, okay, beyond these big profit numbers, how are they actually um, putting that money to work, deploying capital across the country? What's the report say about their lending, the scale of it?
Right, that's the key question. And they've really expanded their reach significantly.
Mm.
Standalone PFC hit its highest ever annual disbursement. That's money actually paid out 1.68 lakh crore.
1.68 lakh crore. That's huge.
It is. It's 1.68 trillion rupees,
Right.
and that figure is up a massive 32% from the year before.
32% increase in disbursement.
Okay, yeah. And their total loan book, the assets, also grew significantly, up 13% to 5.43 lakh crore, to 5.43 trillion rupees. These numbers, they don't just show PFC's financial strength. They show the huge confidence that borrowers, government agencies place in them to fund these really large, critical projects.
Makes sense.
And this financial muscle also meant their net worth grew by 15%, hitting nearly 91,000 crore, and earnings per share jumped 21%.
Okay. So if we zoom out a bit then, what does all this mean for PFC's actual role in the wider Indian economy? How does this kind of performance place them, in the big picture of India Inc.?
Well, connecting those dots, these results definitely put PFC in a very, very prominent spot. The report makes a point of highlighting it. They're ranked 36th in the Fortune 500 India for 2024.
36th. Okay.
And, maybe more telling, they're the third highest profit-making CPSE in India. That's Central Public Sector Enterprise.
Sure.
So it's not just about the money. It really underlines their foundational, almost you could say indispensable role in the nation's economic structure, especially for critical infrastructure.
Right. Underpinning key sectors. Now, beyond the numbers, the report mentions this strategic compass, Nai Sochnayo Rahain. New thinking, new paths. What are these new directions, and how do they connect with India's big national goals, particularly around energy and infrastructure?
Yeah, that's an important point about how their mandate is evolving. Their official lending scope has formally broadened out way beyond just the power sector now.
Oh, interesting. So what else are they funding?
It now includes wider infrastructure and logistics. Think EV charging networks,
Yeah.
roads, ports, metro rail projects, even smart cities. It's a big strategic shift.
So they're becoming more of a general infrastructure financier.
Exactly. It positions them as a really key player in helping India hit that ambitious net zero target by 2070. They're clearly prioritizing investments in green infrastructure projects across the board now.
That move into broader green infrastructure is really interesting. How much of that, green talk actually translates into funding? We hear so much about India's renewable energy targets. How's PFC actually contributing?
Well, they're not just, participating. They are genuinely leading here. The report specifically calls them out as the largest renewable energy financer in India.
The largest. Wow.
Yeah, the renewable energy loan book. It's crossed 80,000 crore. That's 800 billion rupees. And that figure grew an impressive 35% year on year by the end of March 2025.
35% growth in RE lending alone.
Right. And this money directly fuels India's clean energy goals. Yeah, you saw the news maybe. A record 29.5 gigawatts of new renewable capacity was added just in FY24-25, brings the total up to over 220 GW. Lots of solar, lots of wind in there. PSE's financing is a big part of that story.
That's an incredible amount of investment. But okay, what's the real-world effect, the tangible impact of funding all these green projects? Can we actually quantify the environmental benefits?
Yes, we can. And this is where you really see the impact.
Oh.
They did a detailed analysis, project by project, for 22 key renewable projects they backed.
Okay.
And the estimate is that those projects alone help avoid 5.3 million tons of CO2 equivalent every single year.
5.3 million tons. How does that compare to something relatable?
Well, to put that in perspective for you, it's like taking roughly 1.12 million passenger cars off India's roads annually.
Wow. Okay, that paints a picture. 1.1 million cars just from those 22 projects.
Exactly. And if you look across their entire renewable portfolio, the estimated CO2 emissions avoided jump to 1,140 lakh tons. That's 114 million tons annually. And they're walking the talk, too, somewhat. They've transitioned 44% of their own company vehicles to EVs.
Okay, so clearly very plugged into the national environmental targets. How deep does their integration with government initiatives go beyond just the funding? Are they like guiding policy implementation too?
Oh, absolutely. They play a pivotal role there. PFC, along with its subsidiary REC, they're designated as the main nodal agencies for implementing the revamped distribution sector scheme, the RDSS.
Ah, yes, the RDSS. That's the big one for fixing the discoms, right? The power distribution companies.
Precisely. It launched in 2021. The goal is to boost operational efficiency and financial health for the discoms. A huge part of that is rolling out smart meters nationwide. PFC and REC are essentially the expert guides for state governments and utilities here. They coordinate ratings, identify strengths, weaknesses.
So they're advisors as well as funders.
Definitely. And they're actively working with the Ministry of Power on other big things, too, like the viability gap funding for battery energy storage systems, which is crucial for grid stability with more renewables.
Makes sense.
And, kind of an interesting side note, their efforts in promoting Hindi, the official language policy, have actually won them awards from the Ministry of Home Affairs.
Okay. That underscores the public sector identity. But with all this money flowing, this broad strategic role, how do they make sure everything's above board? Governance, integrity, what's the foundation there?
Good question. Their governance structure is meant to be pretty comprehensive, quite robust. It's built on the Companies Act, SEBI rules, RBI guidelines, the whole framework. The report stresses that their board has a good mix of skills and experience for effective oversight.
Right.
Now, it's worth noting they did face minor penalties from the stock exchanges during the year because they briefly didn't meet the required number of independent directors.
Oh, how was that handled?
They rectified it pretty quickly, made key appointments in the first quarter of the next fiscal year, FY25-26, and got back into full compliance. They also have very clear codes of conduct, ethics, and insider trading prevention code. The company secretary is the designated compliance officer, keeping an eye on things.
Okay, compliance seems tight. And what about digital security? Financial risk. In today's world, that's huge. How are they protecting themselves?
We've definitely put thought into that. It's a multi-layered approach for IT and cybersecurity. They've got a dedicated IT steering committee, a head of IT, a chief information security officer, the whole setup.
Standard practice now, really.
Pretty much. Their policy covers everything from network to application security. They use multi-factor authentication. They have a red team that actively tries to hack them to find weaknesses.
Proactive. Okay.
Yeah. And they run disaster recovery drills twice a year. On the financial risk side, they have a methodical credit risk process. And it seems to be working. They've significantly cut their growth stage 3 assets. You probably know them as NPAs, non-performing assets.
Right, the bad loans. How much did they reduce them by?
Dropped from 3.34% down to 1.94%.
Yeah.
And at stage 3 assets went from 0.85% down to just 0.39%. That shows pretty prudent financial management, you know?
That's a significant improvement.
Definitely. And they actively manage liquidity and market risks, too, with policies aligned with RBI guidelines.
Okay, so structures and risks seem well managed. But what about the people inside PFC? How are they investing in their own staff And what about the social impact, on communities outside the company?
They seem to invest quite a bit in their human capital. The report talks about extensive training programs, ESG, financial fraud, general management skills, all tailored to corporate goals. They even have an internal portal called People for engagement and learning.
People. Okay.
And what's really noteworthy is their focus on diversity and inclusion. Women make up over 22% of their workforce.
22%. That's quite good for the sector, isn't it?
It is relatively strong, yes. And they emphasize equal opportunities, strict adherence to the Equal Remuneration Act. They offer good support, too, up to 2 years of child care leave, a new wellness center for employees.
Sounds like a supportive environment. And accountability. How do they handle concerns, grievances, both internally and from, say, vendors or the public?
They have a pretty robust multi-level system. Internally, there's a 4-tier process for employee grievances. There's also an internal complaints committee under the POSH Act, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act.
Did they have any cases?
The report states one complaint was received in FY24-25, which was handled and closed by the committee. They've also launched new online portals specifically for vendor issues, vigilance complaints, and employee grievances, making it easier to raise concerns.
And externally?
Externally, they use platforms like the government's public grievance portals, PIDPI, CPD-grams, and the company secretary acts as the public information officer for any RTI right to information requests. It all points to a commitment to transparency. And this extends to their CSR too, their corporate social responsibility work, which they align with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay, tell us a bit more about that CSR work. They talk about inclusive growth. What kind of projects are we seeing on the ground?
Their CSR reach is quite broad and seems impactful. The report says they've directly benefited over 2.5 million people across India.
2.5 million people. Through what kind of projects?
It's varied. Things like constructing 200 Anganwadis, those are the rural child care and health centers, installing sewage treatment plants for water recycling, empowering women in rural areas through things like oyster mushroom cultivation projects.
Practical, community-level stuff.
Exactly. Also, building and renovating schools, distributing motorized tricycles to people with disabilities to improve their mobility, and beyond direct projects, they're actively supporting micro and small enterprises, MSMEs.
How so? Through procurement.
Yeah, through their procurement policies. Over 42% of their total procurement value last year came from MSMEs. And almost 89% of all their product and service buying was done through the government e-marketplace, the GEM portal, which promotes transparency and efficiency.
Okay. So pulling it all together as we wrap up,
Yeah.
it's really clear PFC isn't just, a bank for the power sector. It's become this strategic engine deeply woven into India's whole development story, and especially its massive energy shift.
Absolutely. From the record profits, the expanding lending, to really leading the charge in green finance and keeping strong governance. It paints a picture of a very dynamic, very important public sector enterprise.
It really does.
They're clearly using their financial clout to drive some pretty transformative changes across many sectors, and doing it while keeping sustainability and social responsibility seemingly front and center. This report gives a fascinating snapshot of how a Maharatna CPSE navigates today's complex world-balancing profit with, well, a pretty profound national purpose.
It certainly does. And, here's something to think about as we finish. India's journey towards global energy leadership, towards that net zero goal in 2070, it's still accelerating, right? So how will organizations like PFC have to adapt even further? How will they innovate to meet these absolutely colossal goals?
That's a big question.
What new areas might they move into? Maybe green hydrogen, advanced battery storage on a massive scale? And what challenges pop up when you try to balance adopting cutting-edge tech with making sure energy stays affordable and accessible for everyone across such a diverse country?
That's an excellent thought for our listeners to chew on. That tension, that interplay between massive finance, rapid tech change, and ensuring broad social benefit. That's definitely going to shape India's next chapter.
Absolutely. Well, we hope this deep dive gave you a richer feel for the forces shaping India's future. Until next time, stay curious.